of our safeties, Andrew Dewey Winger, he was in an interview and he looked at the camera and he said it was always the Jags. And that became like our rallying cry for the playoffs. We, turned it into a hashtag and all of that stuff. And as soon as he said it, like, we know, like, oh yeah, this is going to be something that has legs. Like, this is a classic moment right here. So you kind of, you can't manufacture those moments, but you definitely recognize them when you see them.
Welcome back to another episode of Marketing Mentality. Today we have a special guest on the pod, man. I'm super excited to introduce this young gentleman right here, man. A true storyteller in the digital age of sports. Nick Birdsong is a Tampa native, FAMU graduate, and the director of digital and social media for the Jacksonville Jaguars, where he leads the charge in keeping NFL fans locked in. TikTok, Instagram, X, YouTube, and more. Before messing with the Jazz, before rocking with the Jazz, before all his success with the Jacksonville Jaguars, he's helped build brands like the Denver Nuggets, digital presence, and as their manager of social media and digital content. And his roots run deep in the journalism area, man, in terms of showing up in bylines and leadership roles at Sports News, Alabama Media Group, and the Anderson Star. So he has gone from doing all those amazing things to joining the podcast today, man. So just want to introduce Nick Birdsong. How you feeling, man?
Man, I'm feeling good, man. I'm glad to be on here. You called me young, man, so the check will be in the mail. I appreciate that. The gray hair is accumulating, so no, man, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to learn about what you guys are doing, and I'm glad y'all thought enough to have me on here, man. It's an honor.
Before we hop in, man, we got to talk about how this even came to be and just the power of. I believe in divine intervention. I'm a God-fearing man. I know you are too. Been doing research, and I love it, man. So this came to be on LinkedIn. I think it was. I posted something. I think you followed or liked something, and I immediately, within like 5 minutes, reached out. I was like, "Hey, this young black brother, man, I want to connect. So let's do it." And a lot of times, as the audience knows, when you reach out to people on LinkedIn, you're either gonna get a response, but more often times than not, you're not.
Yeah.
And I don't take offense to it, and neither does Dez or anyone shouldn't. People live busy lives, and we're not entitled to any responses. But you responded back quickly. You saw something that stood out to you, and we went along, and now we're here. And I just personally just thank you for taking the time aside. I know it's the off season, so it's probably a little bit easier, but I appreciate you taking the time to be here, man. So
it ain't nothing, man. Like I said, I forget what the post was, but I thought it was like particularly insightful. I liked it. Kind of looked on you guys' page, seeing what you guys got going on, and you reached out to me, and I always say like I'm busy, but I ain't that busy. You know what I mean? So if anything I can do to help you guys out, and learn from you all as well, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. And like I said, Alan, man, like the check already in the mail, so you don't got to call me young no more. I'm 41, man, so I'm not young at all. so my staff, they let me know every day that I'm not young, man. So I appreciate it, brother.
Nah, no problem, man. Let's hop in. I know we got a lot of questions, but before we get into it, I want to talk about your journey. I know in the intro I gave a little bit. Hopefully I didn't give too much away, but when people think about the role that you have working with the NFL team, that's a lot of people's dream job. Someone wants to get to that place. That's it for a lot of people. Can you talk about your journey starting at a younger age to where you are now and how this all came to be?
Yeah, absolutely. My journey hasn't been traditional. One, because of my age, obviously, like the industry has kind of changed. So, like you said, I'm from Tampa. I went to FAMU, graduated in 2006, and so my degree at the time was, well, not at the time, my degree is in what's called newspaper journalism. Back when newspapers were a thing that still existed, and so I was trained to be a writer, to be a reporter, and that's kind of where the first half of my career went. Kind of that was the foray into the media space. I didn't even know that you could work for a team, like if you weren't a player or a coach. That wasn't something that I had been exposed to, or if I was exposed to it, I wasn't paying any attention to it. And so the first half of my career, I was a writer, reporter. I started out at the Anderson Star. I was covering like 30 different high schools in a 7 county area in East Central Alabama, kind of in the Anderson, Oxford area. That's Anderson is like in between Atlanta and Birmingham on I-20. So I don't know how big of sports fans you guys are, but they've had some athletes, throughout the years come through Anderson. Eric Davis is a guy back in the days. He played opposite Deion Sanders in San Francisco at corner back in the day. Then more recent times, when I was there, they had a guy named Quan Alexander. Quan has had a long career in the NFL. A few other guys. They had some athletes come through there, mainly football players. And so after that, I moved on up the road to Birmingham to an Alabama media group. This was a pivotal time in the industry when basically newspapers. The Birmingham News was the first like major daily newspaper to go to a 24/7 online format, and then kind of produced the newspaper 3 days a week. And so what they did was, at the time they hired a bunch of younger, supposedly more tech savvy reporters we were to go out, cover our games, do our interviews. But we were also to film an interview after the game with our phone, upload that to the website, upload, our stories into CMS, edit ourselves, things of that nature. And so I was covering at the time HBCU sports. So I was covering kind of the HBCUs in Alabama, Miles, Tuskegee, Alabama A&M, Alabama State, all of those schools, Stillman as well, if I didn't mention them. And then also I moved into a role later during my time there where I was covering SEC basketball and UAB football. And at UAB football, there was a time when they got rid of their football program for a year. All of the players transferred. I don't know if y'all remember Jordan Howard, who used to play for the Bears. He transferred to, I think, IU, and different guys went different places. Gerald Everett went to South Alabama. So I was there kind of at a pivotal time. And then I got an opportunity to work at Sporting News, which was in Charlotte. And they kind of were like, hey, we know you're a writer, a reporter. We want to start our own news desk, which was like kind of their way of not having to pay AP. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that, and have their own kind of in-house news gatherers that would pump content to their website. And I was like, I was interested in it, but I turned them down first. Just money wasn't right. And so then they came back with another opportunity sometime after that, and they were like, hey, like we're trying to proliferate our social media channels. At the time it was Twitter, which is now X. I don't know how many people actually say X, but and Facebook. And they were like, we see you online. This was like 2000 what 15, somewhere in there around that time. Everybody was kind of figuring social media out, but the social media channels were starting to proliferate. So I would be on there as kind of a reporter. As Sport News, I also got a chance to be assistant NBA editor, college basketball editor, national columnist. So I was writing about things, posting my stories, commenting on sports, things of that nature. And they said, oh, we see what you do on there. Like, do you want to help us run our social media channels? And that was kind of like the pivot moment in my career, because I was like, well, I already know how to write. Like I could do, they was like, or you could be a wrter. I was like, I already know how to write. It seemed like this social media thing is popping off. I might as well learn that, gain this new skill. At the time, publishing for a brand. This was like right when they went to like 100,000, 200,000 followers. So I helped run their social media. And then, long story short, kind of parlayed that into the position with the Denver Nuggets. So I had a path that probably can't be replicated. We can get into why later, but that's kind of been my journey to here working in the NFL.
Yeah. First of all, we love the journey. It's literally what makes people, in my opinion, who they are. Right? It's not the destination; it's what got you there. And
Absolutely.
when you think back to it, it's you're never gonna forget all the steps that you took to get to the place, and you earned it. You earned it. You weren't given anything, and it's a full circle moment. So I love that first and foremost. And don't sleep on it. I know I'm a big sports fan. Dez is a sports fan too, but I lean a little bit more towards that side a little bit. When I heard the Jags, man, I went back in my Rolodex without even looking this up. So I know Maurice Jones-Drew and Francis,
Okay. Okay.
Byron Leftwich, and you know Blake Bortles. It's I could go back a little bit now.
Okay, that's good. That's good, man. I like oftentimes you never know whether you're talking above or beneath or ahead or behind people, man. So I don't
Yeah,
want to be like mansplaining or sports stuff, but I also don't want to I'm a sports nerd, man. So
yeah,
um
me
like
too.
Right now I'm listening to like a book about Bobby Knight from like 1986 or something like that.
Yeah,
I'm a sports nerd, so I always want to make sure that we're tracking along well.
yeah, I love it. I love it, man. We're gonna get into all that, man. But the other question I have before I let Des chime in is, what does it mean to you personally to help shape the voice of a professional football team, right? From a
Yeah.
Disney perspective. Can you speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, man. One, man, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It's really cool, especially at the Jaguars, because like we're a relatively new franchise, right? Like this past season was our 30th season anniversary. If you compare that to like, the Bears or the Packers, we're a relatively new franchise. So we're just getting to the point where we have people who have been lifelong Jaguars fans. You know what I mean? And so it's super fun, especially for me as somebody who's a writer at heart, a journalist at heart. Being able to embody just the energy and the spirit of a fan base, and we're a one professional sport, major professional sports team town. So if you're from Jacksonville or if you live in Jacksonville, then you're probably a Jaguars fan. Actually, there's some people who aren't because it's a new franchise, but like you got some love for, or you are a Jaguars fan. So and I love that. And you really kind of have to understand Jacksonville, understand Duval County, to really kind of embody that voice, embody that spirit. And I think that we do a pretty good job of that. Our fans tell us that all the time. So man, I really love that.
Yeah, yeah. Duval County, man. It's man. I know y'all got a new head coach
Yes,
right
sir.
now, and everything. But yeah, Duval County runs deep, man. I love that. Thank you for that insight.
What I'm curious to hear from you about, Nick, is going back to your journalism origins. I find it fascinating that today storytelling is like a synonym for marketing.
Yeah. Yep.
Depending on who you ask, most people they tie that in some format. But really, journalism in itself, obviously, is all about writing a story as well in its own format. So, can you talk more about kind of that intersectionality, where you saw similarities coming from the journalism world into the social media content world, where you see contrasts still?
Yeah,
Anything?
yeah, absolutely. So I can talk about the similarities. First, I think like the ability to communicate is really fundamental, paramount, essential to what I do. Right, going from the editorial side of the media game to kind of into the team space. And I actually, man, like when I came into the team side, I thought that I was going to be at a deficit, because I'm like, there's all these people here who have been lifelong marketers. They've worked for teams their entire careers. And I'm coming from the journalism side of things. I'm coming from the editorial side of things. Like, I'm going to have to play catch up. And there was definitely, some of that, right? Like, I remember being in meetings when I first got to the Nuggets and hearing a term and then Googling the term, under the table. Like, I don't even know, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But for the most part, it's been really my superpower, like the ability to communicate effectively. As a journalist, you have to be able to communicate to a multitude of audiences, whether that's young, old, black, white, whatever, urban, rural. Like, I've been in small areas in Alabama, I've been in New York City, you know what I mean? So that's really been my superpower, because communication is everything. Like, whatever our marketing messaging is, if that's season ticket messaging, if that's we want to get people excited for the season, you have to communicate that stuff. If you're trying to you guys know, if you're trying to put together a marketing campaign, you're trying to build a deck. If it's not something that you can translate, that you can put in the hands of somebody else and allow them to play their position, or run it from their spot, then you're not doing your job. And so really, like, man, that's actually helped me so much. My journalism background, being able to communicate, being able to be an effective communicator. I think the difference is, or the contrast is, as you worded it, Desmond, would just be like the platform that you're doing it on, right? But it's super transferable, or the reason why you're doing it. Obviously, like, if you're a journalist, you're trying to get people as close to the team as possible. You're trying to give them as much insight, but you're trying to be fair and balanced. Obviously, like for us, there's a public relations aspect to it, where we're trying to get people excited and feel as good about the team, as they can, whether we're winning, whether we're struggling, or whatever. So that's really just I think the difference is just how you do that. But the stuff that I learned at FAMU, the stuff that I learned in my journalism classes, how to communicate, even simple as like word choice, man. Like you guys know how it is when you're building out a slogan or a campaign. You need to have good word choice. Certain words evoke certain emotions, and just being able to understand audience, from the editorial side has been super helpful because I know what moves people, in a different way than people who have been on this side their whole career.
Right. Yeah. You actually hit on an excellent point, I think, about the reality of sports teams is that you have winning seasons or losing seasons. And
Absolutely.
regardless, you have to find a way to tell a compelling story no matter what. Talk about Nick, that shorter end of the stick. I know you all got a few in this past season.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They count. I'm sure it got the city excited.
Yep.
But how do you handle that from a storytelling perspective when you have to do that
Yeah.
with season?
So I mean that's the one thing that like we can't control is obviously like I work for a football team. I don't play football, so
Yeah.
wins and losses impacts every level of the business, impacts every business unit in the entire organization. When you're winning, things are better. When you're losing, things are tougher. But you have to be able to get your job done. Whether you're in partnerships, whether you're in marketing, whether you're in social, digital, whatever, regardless of that. And there are, some tried and true things. I know, like I don't work in ticketing, but on the ticketing side, they sell experiences. They try not to sell wins and losses because those things are obviously, go up and down. And for us, what we try to do is really understand the fan base, understand even if you're struggling, what are those things that you can be excited about, and how can you emphasize those things? So, for example, this past year we had another season where we struggled, but we had probably the best rookie wide receiver in the whole NFL. Like Brian Thomas Jr. is amazing. So we're gonna show our fans that hey, we've got this building block. We don't have to worry about a wide receiver one anymore. We got that guy down. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence got injured this year, so Mac Jones is playing quarterback for us, and so there's the opportunity to sell hope. Like, okay, Trevor's healthy again now. Obviously, we've got Brian Thomas Jr. We've had, two running backs that have had success in the past, in Travis Etienne Jr. and Tank Bigsby. We kind of retooled the offensive line and free agency. So you find those things. You find those things that you can build on. And then the other thing is just like understanding the nature of fandom, man. Like, people have been divorced, people have been single, but they've been rooting for the same team their entire lives. You know what I'm saying? So very rarely is somebody going to jump ship, but you do have to give them, reason to believe that the franchise is headed in the right direction. And there's always those things. And obviously, like man, once the last game of the previous season is played, everybody's 0-0. We've seen teams turn it around, rather quickly. If you look in the NBA right now, the three of the best teams are the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Detroit Pistons, and the Cleveland Cavaliers. And you couldn't say that, a couple years ago. So there's always hope to sell. You just got to be realistic in how you do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's well said, man. That is well said. In the marketing arena, and I'm so happy, we're happy to be talking to a marketer that understands digital as well. But you spoke about audiences, and audiences are so important, and audiences come in different shapes and sizes. And you have to be able to appeal to them in whatever way that is. You learn tricks along the way, right? As you mentioned before, but you have to be ready to pivot, especially in this digital age. So can you speak about the definition of success from your perspective, right? What makes a campaign worth it, or what makes a certain post or a certain initiative worth it in your eyes, where you sit from a Jaguars perspective in your role there?
Yeah, it really depends on obviously like what the campaign is, who the partner is, right? So like, you have internal partners when you're working for a large organization like this. So an internal partner could be ticketing, an internal. I'm pointing towards where their office is. An internal partner could be partnerships, and sometimes you have external partners who the particular partner is. And so oftentimes, like the thing that you need to do to determine what makes a campaign successful is determine like what that success is going to look like or should look like in the planning process, right? So, for example, like one of our external partners oftentimes is Foundation, which is the philanthropic arm of the organization, does the community work, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff, by and large, isn't going to do the numbers that us posting this 60-yard Travis Etienne Jr. touchdown in game is going to do, right? So we're not going to define success for that, by raw social numbers, right? Like success for that is gonna be, different. Same for a partner. They have like an external partner. I mean, like a vendor or something like that. Not a vendor, but like a sponsor. They may have different expectations. So their goal could be, okay, this is literally just engagement. Like we got logo integration. We want to put this on something that's highly visible, and so we want to see what those impression numbers look like, on the back end after we set everything up and publish it. So that's a level of success. For others, it could be, they have a CTA, which y'all know is a call to action. Like, okay, we want to get people to redeem. When I was at the Nuggets, we had we had something called a Wendy's double double. It's like you got a free double, you got to buy one get one free on a double stack every time a player gets a double double, right? Like, and so we had Nikola Jokic, he was getting double doubles every night, right? So that's success. They're getting people to go into those local Denver-based Wendy's and redeem those coupons. The success depends on what the campaign is and how you determine it. Sometimes it is just raw engagement, but oftentimes it's deeper than that.
Yeah, and to that point, man, thank you for talking about that for our audience, because sometimes people forget the fact that success comes in layers, and it depends on what you're trying to accomplish, right? Everything isn't going to go viral. We had an
Right,
episode
right.
a couple episodes ago, like, everybody make it go viral is the worst marketing advice ever. Like,
Make the logo pop. Yeah, all of that.
it's going to depend. Uh, Continue on this audience path. The Jacksonville Jaguars were one of the first teams to start doing the London games. Right, the NFL as a brand is so expansive. Right, it is expanded. The NBA was there first, right, but the NFL was really starting to expand out internationally. Right, I think they released their international games were like their expansion a couple of days ago, where their NFL is expanded to this year.
Yep.
You speak about from where you sit the evolution of the NFL and obviously the Jaguars in terms of audience and the markets that they're looking to reach and the people that they're looking to reach outside of the U.S.
Yeah. But obviously, the NFL, like you said, recently kind of expanded their global markets, added some teams got global markets that didn't have one. We've been in London for the past, I think, 11 years. So we were
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah,
one of the first teams there. I've had the opportunity to go out there for 10 days each of the past 2 seasons and kind of see, what our footprint out there looks like. Obviously, it's a monetization play for the league. You want to have a global appeal because you want to make money everywhere you can, right? So for us, there's even even more of an advantage of being able to activate and having an active fan base in London because our owner Shad Khan, in his portfolio, he also owns Fulham, the Premier League soccer, maybe I'll say football soccer team, which is based in London. They're having an amazing season this year. So that's one thing that we always try to keep in mind when we're activating on the U.S. based side is to keep our London fans in mind because it's very important for our organization, very important for the league. So one of the things that I led this year was our local merch collab. We did it with a company called 89 Los Originals. It's owned by this guy named Carlos Foster, who's from the east side of Jacksonville, which is where our stadium sits. So it's the historically black area, right in the footprint of the stadium. And so the second piece of the collection that we did this year was a London themed T-shirt. If you go on, I can show it to y'all later at some point. But was a London themed T-shirt. It was a caricature T-shirt illustrated by a guy named Frico, who's worked for Adult Swim and Cartoon Network and stuff like that. It had Wembley Stadium in the background, the big red bus, Jaguar. Just a really, really dope piece. But we wanted something that appealed to our fans from the U.S. who are going out to travel in that game and to kind of commemorate our relationship with London and the fact that we play out there every year. So that's always something that we're looking to do. We did a content piece with Traore, one of their players. He's like the biggest guy in soccer. He's huge. He looks like a football, like an American football player. So we made sure that we got him a jersey and a pack. And then while we were out there, Brian Thomas Jr. and Josh Allen did some stuff with EA and some influencers out there. So it's huge for us.
Yeah. That's amazing, man. I'm just that wasn't even a question or something I brought up. I just remembered it. But a couple months ago, even last year, I was talking about. I don't think I did a LinkedIn post about it. I should. I was talking about the intention around the NFL expanding globally, and it's well done because I remember where it started. Right, how it started
Yeah.
very small, and then now it's expanded, and it's amazing to see that go from that, and then incorporating women right into the game as well from a flag
Yep.
perspective and things of that nature too. That's another initiative that's huge. Speaking of which, can you talk about how what your approach is to keeping things innovative with these trends? Obviously, the digital age, as we all our audience understands, and as you understand, flips so quickly.
Yeah.
You have to get on the train, and you have to know when to not get on the train.
Yeah.
So how do you keep you yourself and the team along with that, and just make sure they stay on trends and they stay off certain ones depending on what it is?
Yeah, I think this is where like diversity is really, really important, and not just
Yep.
usually when you say the word diversity, people think about racial diversity. I think that's important as well, obviously, but even like diversity of age, right? So I told y'all like in the on the social digital team, I'm the leader, the director, whatever you want to call it, but I'm the old head, man. I'm 41, so I had the opportunity when I got here to hire like my entire staff, which is very unique, right? And so most of my staff are in their early, mid. One guy just turned 30 recently. And so, they do a good job of, keeping their ear to the streets. They know, what's popping, what's trending on TikTok, things of that nature. And then you do kind of have to have it's more art than science about knowing how to when to attack the trend, when to hop on it, when to lay back. I think one of the things that we've learned is like with something like memes, you got to be very careful about what the actual origin of the meme is, right? Like we had one meme in particular. I want to say it was Travis Scott, where he has this really like excruciating look on his face, and people were like using it, for a lot of different things. And we were contemplating using it, but then we found out what the context of it was. It was like he had actually been like attacked or something like that at this concert, and somebody was like, grabbing his stuff. You know what I'm saying? And he was like in legitimate pain. This was like and so we were like, yeah, like we're not gonna do that. And so a lot of times, that diversity is like important, like knowing what's going on, but then having the savvy to sit back and say, okay, this is cool. This is something that we want to get on top of, that we want to, be social on social media with, and then also having that wisdom to be like, yeah, we might want to pass on that one. So that's probably like a tangible example of like why it's important to kind of have like, um, you know, I'm not super conservative, but I'm more conservative than some members of our staff. And so we have a good balance of like, yeah, let's do it. Let's be edgy. Let's be social, along with like, let's make sure that, we're still here to represent, like none of these channels are our own. They belong to Shotgun. They belong to the NFL. And, our company is supposed to be rooted in football, family, and fun. And we don't want to violate, those principles either.
Yeah.
That I think is a great example of having your ear to the streets, and knowing either just when you hear it or you see it, what's right or wrong to do for the brand, but also having the competence to do the research necessary if you saw that meme and you didn't immediately know what the origin was. And to that point, I think when it comes to from a social listening perspective as well, the best brands have those mechanisms in place too to do exactly that. Also, can you talk about social listening, Nick, if you all use it? And
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that it's like we have I guess in comparison to some teams, probably like a larger social digital team. So it's probably like eight, nine of us. About to add an additional head count. It's something that we kind of do intuitively. To be honest, is like we're always connected. We're always kind of looking at what's going on and seeing where there might be an organic connection. Because even some stuff, even if it is safe, it's just like you've all seen brands where you're like, man, they really reaching. You know what I mean? Like they're trying to be cool. They're trying to be something, and you're gonna make those mistakes. But definitely, like we pay attention to it, and also like the good thing about the NFL is that they have a lot of tools in place. A lot of support for you. So every week we're getting analytics reports. We're seeing what types of content people are the audience is responding to. Usually, that's going to be helmet off type of content. Where you can show personalities, because obviously in football, like these guys have helmets on when they're on the field. They're seen once a week primarily. And so, you know, you have to do a good job of marketing them as humans as well, showing that. So it's something we kind of do intuitively. We have some things put in place. We meet during the season every morning at 9 a.m. during the off season. We do it 3 times a week where we're kind of talking about trends, things that are going on, what's going on our day-to-day basis. So we're never really not locked in. Um, you know, so social listening is kind of like just the air we breathe, what we do every day, all day.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear, man. I when I think about the NFL, right? I've been a fan for a long time. I think about moments that these teams, right, like the Odell Beckham catch or whatever the case, things that happen that live on far beyond what you imagine that they will live on, like the catch and different things like that. But do you ever think about that, like the cultural impact of your work, how like a story or a clip or a moment can live far beyond just this one scroll or this one moment?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, you know, that's how you create kind of uh, fandom around moments. You know, and sometimes you just know it. Like you can tell when it's gonna happen. Like we had a game earlier this year where I think Trevor was in that game. It was one of the throwback games. He threw like this 85-yard touchdown pass, and like the DB for the Colts like stretched out like this, like dove out trying to catch him. Obviously, like he couldn't, and Brian scored, and so like we just knew like, oh, that's going to be a moment. That's going to be something that we can capitalize on. You know, far beyond this moment. Or even something like, you know, a couple years ago when we had a really good playoff run. One of our safeties, Andrew Wingert, Dewey Wingert, he was in an interview and he looked at the camera and he said it was always the Jags. And that became like our rallying cry for the playoffs. We, you know, turned it into a hashtag and all of that stuff. And as soon as he said it, like we know, like, oh yeah, this is going to be something that has legs. Like this is a classic moment right here. So you kind of, you know, you can't manufacture those moments, but you definitely recognize them when you see them.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts about digital marketing and social media is that it's a giant game of chess, and then you have these random moments that you have to be able to identify quickly and either decide to pull the trigger on in terms of like, hey, let's roll into this, or like, hey, this doesn't fit. But it takes a certain level of knowledge and a certain level of anticipation and understanding more than anything the audience. So I love hearing you talk about that. That you immediately knew. Can you talk about that a little bit more? Like the idea of knowing when things are going to that make sense and when they shouldn't make sense, like that
Yeah.
intuitive
Yeah, I mean,
muscle.
usually, like it's if it's something like Dewey saying it was always the Jags, like it's usually attached to a moment, and like you know, while it does take some skill, like sometimes it's pretty obvious, right? So I'll give an example like away from us that recently happened. So in the NCAA tournament, I can't remember who they beat at the buzzer, but Maryland beat somebody at the buzzer, and Derek Queen, the freshman, when he was like, you know, I'm from Baltimore, that's why. And like everybody immediately knew like they're gonna take this and run with it, whether that's Under Armour, Maryland basketball, like this is gonna be a thing, you know, as they go into the next round. Like it he hit a buzzer beater. He's a freshman. He's from Baltimore. He was a high level recruit that could have gone elsewhere, but he stayed in. You know, and then I think the question they were asking the coach was like, you know, how did you decide who was going to get the ball? Like, who are you going to go to? And
He
he
said in
said,
the
something
brother's
like, you know,
hand. Yeah,
yeah, give me the ball. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And they were like, why you had this confidence? So that's something that you know you just immediately knew was going to be a moment. I think we recently, like you know, like you were talking about, had a new GM and James Gladstone from the Rams, and you know he some of his key talking points is like elevating our ecosystem, bringing in guys who just by the nature of who they are, the character, the way that they play, they're gonna elevate our ecosystem. And then you know there was an interview where he was like, you know, game on. If we have a moment to be bold in the draft or in free agency, we're gonna do it. And you can kind of just tell like you just kind of know when certain things hit, you know, when they hit different or when they have some legs. And then at other times, like you know, some if something is associated with, um, you know, a moment that I don't even say associated with a moment that's not good, but sometimes you just know, like you know, this was something somebody said in a moment from the team standpoint. You know, we don't want to hang on to that or whatever. Like we've had those moments as well. It's pretty intuitive, but you know it. And even like the fan base knows. Like I saw as soon as Derek Queen said that, you know, it was all over the internet. Fans were like, "Yeah, I need this on a T-shirt," like immediately. So, like you said, while you know you would like to think, "Oh, like, it's just my social listening skills. It's my you know my ability." Like it's kind of obvious a lot of times, man, what those
Yeah,
moments are.
yeah, it is. It is.
Follow up to that, during those moments, as a fan, right, we see the rollout from a content perspective, and we just see whatever that is. We don't think, oh, the NFL posted this, or the Jaguars themselves posted this, or Under Armour, as you mentioned, posted this. But can you talk about, like, from the behind the scenes perspective, what those rules of engagement, if you will, are? What rights does one have over the other when it comes to that, or is it just fair game?
Yeah, I mean, typically, like where that stuff is going to emerge from, it's going to be, like fair game, right? So, like I can obviously speak from the NFL standpoint. A lot of times, the NFL, they have their own channels as well. Like they're a creative agency in a lot of ways, and so a lot of times they may send you like on highlights, for example, like a big play happens in a game. A lot of times, like there's a limit to how many highlights we can post, in game. So a lot of times the league will post it on Instagram and send us a collab. If there's something that happens in a game that they think will help the NFL's channels and it happens from our game, then they'll post it. They don't necessarily like give us a heads up all the time. But it happened during the game. We're free to post it. If it's something that happens like in one of our press conferences and their eyes aren't on it, the league's eyes aren't on it immediately, then that might be an opportunity, for us. But we may want to collab with the league as well, just to get the amplification. So you kind of partner with them. In a lot of ways, they have what they call like the all 33 approach to a lot of things, where the league is very aware of what's going on with each of the clubs, and obviously, like we want to make sure that we're aligned with the league. But typically, I mean, from the team standpoint, we'll have what we want to push. We'll have our slogans, our mantras, our campaigns. The people that we know are going to be front facing, and we'll do everything we can. But there's probably a lot less. I don't want to say a lot less conversations, but like I think like the league does a really good job. One of the things I like about working in the NFL is like they're very accessible for teams. Like they have a best practices deck for everything. They have an account representative that you can reach out to easily. They have a Slack channel that if you need advice or if you have an idea that you can always reach out, kind of and ask them things and partner or whatever you want to call it. So it's not extremely complicated. I don't think it's as maybe as deep as people would make it out to be. It's still, just football. What the most important things are.
Yeah, that's great insight, man. I wanna switch gears just a little bit back to your journey and
Hmm.
really helping, like I said, helping the next generation or giving nuggets to other people that are interested in the type of work that you do. So the first question I want to ask you is, what has been the biggest lesson along the way? Like to where you are now, what is one thing that you always took with you that you still apply today?
Um, I think as it relates to like entering the industry, that's always the question that I get. Like, how do you enter the industry? How did you enter the industry? Whatever. I think if knowing what you want to do, I
Mm,
think is very important. I kind of just stumbled into it. That's why I said like I don't say I stumbled into it, but things just kind of happened in whatever way they did. But I think knowing what you want to do in sports is very important, right? I tell people all the time, like saying you want to get into sports is like saying you want to get into medicine, right? Do you want to be a podiatrist or do you want to be a neurologist? Those are two totally different fields, two totally different paths.
yeah.
You're gonna have to study some different things, right? So, like a lot of times, I'll get questions of people that say, "Hey, I want to work on, I want to work in football ops. Like, I want to work on the football side of things." I have no clue how you do that. Honestly, I guess you be a former player or a former coach, be a grad assistant, work your way
Right.
up, fill out some. I don't know what to tell you. I have no clue, right? So I think knowing what you want to do, and then getting skills that would help you be competitive with other people that are going for those jobs. I can obviously speak from the social digital, the content side of things. I usually tell people like, hey, if you know that if you're trying to enter into this side of it, you're probably going to start out with a social media coordinator role, and for that, you're going to have probably capture and editing skills. So you're going to have to know your way around Adobe Suite. You're probably going to have to be able to shoot something, edit it, and turn it into something that's palpable, whether that's a 30 to 90-second video or a photo that's properly edited, understanding aspect ratios. Probably going to have published on the behalf of someone other than yourself. and then understand a little bit about analytics. Those are probably like the basic things that enter into like this side of things. But I think like knowing what you want to do so that you can make yourself competitive is important, right? Like, if you want to be on the content side, then make sure that you are getting content skills, getting internships, on the content side. If you want to work in events, that's a different type of path, same industry, just a different area.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great insight. Because, like you said, if you don't know, you don't know.
Right.
Right? People think one thing, right, in terms of this being in sports, and it's a multitude different of ways you can get into that. So just identifying that and then asking the right questions. So I appreciate you giving that practical insight and understanding what you don't know. Hey, I don't know this area, so
Yeah, man. I don't know how to tell you to get in the football ops. I don't know.
all right. Yeah, I love that. Speaking of evolution and journeys and things like that, obviously we were remiss if we didn't talk about the big AI word, right? So I know you probably get it, and there's probably been think pieces in the league about it and how that helps and how it doesn't, whatever. How do you all take the AI model or use it or don't use it to the work that you do day to day?
Yeah, I think it's like anything else. It's a tool, right? So a lot of people say, well, the bots are taking over. It's going to take your job. No, no, it's not. The people that don't know how to use it, the people who don't embrace it, the people who don't understand where to apply it, yeah, those people will be left behind. But one of the things with the NFL that's interesting, like when I mentioned earlier about the all 33 approach,
Mm-hmm.
is typically when something new enters the world, right? They take the all 33 approach, which means that they will understand it, absorb it, and then probably make some sort of legislation on how it applies to on how all teams can use it. But they usually take that approach to where the league is going to analyze this, and then they'll see how we're going to roll. What the rules and regulations will be for clubs in that way. So same thing with AI. They have certain they have certain restrictions, limitations, things you can't do. You kind of just abide by that from the team perspective. Now, are people probably using it in ways that we're not aware of or whatever? Yeah, of course. But typically, like that's how the NFL handles things.
Yeah. I love that. I appreciate the insight there. It's it's needed. Obviously, AI. We talked about this last episode. It isn't going anywhere.
Mm-mm.
Right? We always talk about the idea of being fearful of things. Right? The people that feared electricity or feared the calculator when it came out. Right?
Yeah,
But I love the fact that one, the NFL understands the product. Right?
yeah,
Obviously, all the teams make up. We all together, all 33 approach, and that makes a lot of sense because what I hear when I hear that is awareness of like, hey, this is a thing. Let's not all jump into the water. Let's see if it's warm first. Let's see what
yep,
makes sense because all this is representative of that. And I know that makes your job a lot easier because you're going to get the questions. You're going to get the
yeah,
hey, how come we're not doing this? How come we're not getting that? But it's all governed respectfully in that way, so it
yep,
makes everyone's job a lot easier. But it keeps you on the cutting edge at the same time. I don't look at the NFL as a brand that's slow to things, right?
yeah.
They're doing things in the background, but you all kind of make that what it is, So
Yeah.
I love that. I love
Yeah,
that.
the NFL really just, they really, measure twice and cut once. And
Yeah.
you can see, like, looking at it sometimes from the team perspective, you can look at it as it being limiting. But really what it is like, excuse me, they're the number one, most profitable, sports league, in America, sports league in the world. And what they want to do is make sure that when they do something, when they step out into the marketplace with a new tool, a new platform, whatever, that they do it with excellence, and that so it's not going to be the wild wild west. And on the business side, they want to make sure that they protect their partners and their interest, and that they properly evaluate the risk and benefits of whether it's a new platform or some new tool or something like that. Those television rights are everything. That's why there's a limit to how many highlights that we can post in game during the broadcast window, because they want to drive that value to their partners. They want you watching the game on TV, not just following along with it, on social media. So from a business perspective, like, I totally understand why the league does a lot of the things that they do, and like, it just makes you that much better of a marketer if you can kind of understand their view as well.
Yeah, I love that.
Going back to the skill set question, or if I'm someone, Nick, that wants to figure out how to get into the field, uh,
Mm-hmm.
aside from AI, I know you hit on the analytics front, which I know is either something that gets overlooked when you're talking about social media because everything is so much about the creative,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what people see, or people overemphasize on the
Right.
data. I was watching an interview you've done before where you said something to the effect of how you all take the approach of being more so data informed rather than data making the decisions for you. Can you talk more about that process and how data does inform?
Yeah, I think what I always say, or what you might have heard me say, man, y'all really did y'all research. Y'all went in the archives, man. But it's just being data informed and not data dictated, because to what we were talking about earlier is that, you know, the success for one campaign, one post might be different from another, given what the context of it is, right? But I think like you are not doing your job if you don't know like what types of content typically perform better when your audience is, you know, at their computers or on their phones, more. Now, sometimes you can train your audience, and we do a little bit of that. We'll force some things at particular times for whatever reasons. But typically, like, you want to be aware of those things. And I think nowadays it's something that people do almost intuitively. They do it without even thinking about it, but being able to understand that from a brand perspective and not just a personal perspective. Like there are some people who have like huge followings on their personal platforms,
Mhm.
and like whether they have sat down and thought about it enough, they've done analytics on why and when they post, what they post, what's aspect ratios perform better. They've thought about these things. They may have not have formalized it or crystallized it in their heads yet, but those things are definitely transferable. So like the league, that like I told y'all, the league does a great job. Every week we get a report of raw engagement numbers, video views, all of that stuff for the entire league, and how we rank, versus other teams, what words stand out. Like every Friday, I think every Thursday or Friday, we get that. So we always make sure we take a look at that. There are some other tools that you can use that can help you with understanding your own audience, and when to, whether that's when to post, what to post, all of that type stuff. There's a million companies. You got to figure out which one works best for you. I can name some of them, but I don't think they paying y'all on their podcast, or
Not yet. Not
yeah,
yet.
not yet. They're not paying y'all yet, so we'll wait. But yeah, there's a million tools that you can use. Y'all kind of just figure out which ones best suit your needs. But you definitely have to be. It's almost like the same thing in football, right? Like, or in any sport, right? Like you got the baseball, you got the money ball people. Football, you got the data analytics folks, and then some people just believe in the eye test. That the answer, as it relates to like player acquisition and stuff like that, is probably somewhere in between. Like you see something you like, okay, well let me go see what the numbers say about this. Or you see a post that's successful, and you see, okay, well what are the things that we can take away? What can be replicated? What can be built on, to kind of mirror that success or contextualize that success for us? Same thing.
Yeah, I love that, man. Great insight across the board. A couple more, man. I'm curious to know about what's next. What are you excited for from a digital and a campaign perspective? I know from my experience, the schedule release is like a lot of teams do big things when it comes to that. We live in Chicago, so I remember when the Bears did the Bear rendition of the schedule release. That was
Yeah,
huge. Certain teams go really big. Certain teams like you know what I'm saying. So it just depends. I know they all hit the same, but
yeah.
what you got coming up? What are you excited about, man?
Man, same thing. I'm super excited about the draft. I mean, obviously, like player acquisition is something that always gets people excited. We got the fifth pick in the draft right now, and we
Mhm.
have a ton of draft picks. I think we got 10 or 11, and so we got a really an opportunity to bolster the roster, to bring fan engagement and excitement up about the new guys that's coming in. Everybody playing armchair GM, so that's always fun. Mock drafts and all of that stuff is always super fun. Schedule release is something that obviously like we cooking something up right now. Got a few options that we're trying to decide.
NDA, no, it's coming soon. I just know it's gonna be fire, bro. Don't disappoint me,
Oh,
man. Talk
man,
about it.
it's so hard, man. It's so hard. It's a real competition, every year. You got to figure out, some of it is based on budget. I could, I obviously I know a few things, know a few people. I could tell you like some of it you're not going to be able to compete with simply because the amount of money that these people are
Yeah.
investing into this stuff, and like every organization doesn't have the same approach. But the interesting thing too though is that the money doesn't necessarily guarantee the success, right? Like sometimes it's just the creativity of the idea. Last year, the Tennessee Titans had the most successful schedule release video ever, and
What they do?
they had two, but the one that was super successful was they went out on, I think it's called Broadway in Nashville, and they just asked, random people on the street to, I think, recognize team logos or whatever that were on their schedule, and they
Okay.
were given like a bunch of funny responses and stuff like that. And that's something that's completely lo-fi, doesn't
Right.
cost really anything to do, but just the novelty of the idea and the way that it hit, when everybody saw it, how funny it was, um, you know, is what resonated. So it's really a matter of like, creativity. Budget help too though,
Yeah.
sometimes. So it's the same thing like we're saying, data and the eye test, creativity and budget and how all of that stuff works together. Now it's kind of like the fun and the pressure of marketing, but definitely like we got schedule release coming up, man. I'm super excited about the draft. And really, man, just the season. Like I'm ready to see, what we're gonna put out on the field this coming year.
Yeah. No, I definitely appreciate it, man. One last thing we always like to ask our guests before they leave is, we have a platform, right? The platform is growing. What's one piece of marketing advice that you would give to someone watching this that's inspired by your journey or just needs a word from you right now? What's something that you would say, man? What's the last walkaway message?
Oh man, that's a huge. Whenever somebody says a great question, they trying to think of an answer. So that's definitely what I'm trying to do right now. I'm trying to buy some time, man. It depends on who it is, man. But I would just say, be a student of what you do. Like that sweat equity, that ingenuity, that is something that you can't purchase. It's not going to come to you. So really be a student of what you do. Study it. See who's most successful in the space that you are, and see what they're doing. Try to find out how they're doing it. And just like how you connected with me for this interview, man, the world is a lot more connected, than it is disconnected nowadays. And so, man, if you see somebody doing something that you admire, I don't say 9 times out of 10, but a lot of times, man, you reach out to people, you'd be surprised, the response that you can get. Like one of the examples I always say, I didn't make this up, I got it from somebody else, but it's like, man, if your car breaks down, um, and you just sit in it, you know, somebody might come and help you. Maybe they won't. But if your car breaks down and you get out and you start pushing your car, you'd be surprised how quickly somebody come alongside and help you push your car, man. So I think just be a student of what you do. A lot of the stuff how I make up for whatever I feel like my deficiencies are is like research, man. And it's like you holding all of the, I don't say all of the answers, but a lot of them in your back pocket or wherever you keep your smartphone at. So that's probably the best advice, man, I could really give. If y'all got a little bit more time, man, I do want to say, man, I appreciate y'all doing this, and providing this platform for your audience and whatnot. But I feel kind of crazy, like if I don't say thanks to like a lot of the people that have kind of like helped me along my way. So I definitely want to do that. Like I have this job because of a guy named Julian Duncan, who's the CMO at the Houston Rockets, the first black CMO in the history of the NFL. He hired me here. My former boss, her name is Ada Ghostin. She's over brand for the Detroit Red Wings and the Tigers, and just a lot of people here. At the Jags organization, Jared Harding. He used to be my boss at the Denver Nuggets. He gave me a chance um, when I was at when I was at Sporting News. I just recently asked him. I was like, man, like I hadn't really had no experience in doing this. Like, what made you think that I could do it? He was like, I just thought you were smart and we wanted, something different. So he took a huge chance on me. My wife was the person who sent me the link to the Nuggets job. I didn't even know it existed. So shout out to her too. And like I just want to say that because I'm like, man, and just like my whole team here, like they probably won't even see this. I'm not like, hey, look, I did this podcast interview, but just like all of the people I work with. There's the guy named Charlie Jordan, our social media manager, Jennifer Garavaglia, she's our digital media manager, Will Pease, Brooke Hopfee, Amon Lott, Cameron Little, not Cameron Little, but Cameron Hicks, our social media producer. Josie Ann Keenan, she does a lot. She's our social media coordinator. Just like, man, we have a really great team, and like all of them people, like, help me a lot, man. So I don't want to just be like talk about myself the whole time, even though y'all interviewing me. I got a lot of people that helped me get here. There's people at school, at FAMU. Like, if you was in the journalism program from '02 to '06, you probably helped me out. Miss Hall, who gave me a scholarship. I could go on and on, but I just want to thank a lot of people too, man. Like, I definitely am not like some guru that just got here like all by themselves. So,
Of course not, man. What you're talking about, man, we work with a client called Waymaker Media, man, and the whole premise of that comes from we all have waymakers, people that saw
I like that.
Yeah, people that saw potential in us before we even saw it in ourselves and decided to pave a way or give us something that take us to the next level, and we take that baton and just run and run and run. So we're all testaments of that sitting right here, man, and it says a lot that you even brought that up yourself, man. We can ask the question, but you're the first guest to have to pause it. Like, hey, I gotta give flowers.
Yeah, I didn't want to get out of here. My guy Devin Carvalho too, like our creative content manager. Like man, it's just a lot of people, man.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't really even know how I got in a position now. I mean, I tell people all the time, man. Like, I really don't know. Like, sometimes I'll like, be walking into the stadium for work, and I'll be like, man, like, but like, I really like. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I really like work for an NFL team. I walk around the stadium, and I could walk over to the facility and all that
Pick
stuff.
yourself a little bit, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, of course, like, it's a job like anything else, has aspects of it that, if they wasn't giving you a check that you wouldn't want to do. But man, I'm extremely grateful, man. And like, I love what you guys are doing, man. With you guys agency, and provide an opportunity for people to get on here and tell their stories and encourage other people as well.
Yeah, man. I love that, bro. Go ahead, Des.
Yeah, I was just going to touch on what you just spoke about, Nick. It's interesting. I was just having this conversation with someone yesterday because they asked me a similar question about how do you feel about your success in so many words? And I pause and I'm like, man, it's like when you're on a journey and you're moving at such a pace, it takes and it requires really slowing down to even think about that. You kind of pause and take a look back, and you're like, wait, I really am who I think I am. I am where I want it to be. I'm still going in a forward direction, but I've covered so much ground at such a pace that wouldn't even have been imaginable, back whenever, I started.
Yeah.
So in real time, it's like being in a car. You don't really feel like you're going 60.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's dope, man. And I'm familiar with Julian Duncan as well. I haven't had the chance to actually meet him in person before, but he may already be familiar with the Monday Night Mentorship.
Yeah. No, JD is the GOAT, man. I was texting him this morning, man. Like, JD is amazing, man. I don't even know how. I'm thankful just to know him, man. Like, JD is really that dude, man. Like, he really somebody. I ain't really nobody. JD really somebody. You know what I mean? So, JD really somebody. So yeah, man. Just a great guy, great person to learn from, man. Like, a lot of stuff that y'all have heard me say is just stuff I took out of his mouth, man. So, JD is man. He's a trailblazer in the industry.
So, shout out to JD, man.
So thanks, y'all, for watching another episode of Marketing Mentality. We had a great conversation with our boy Nick Birdsong here, man. I know he's over there in Duval County with the Jaguars, man. We in Chicago rooting for the Bears, but it's all good because we all marketers. We had a great conversation. Looking forward to chatting with y'all again. Stay locked in. Stay tuned. We have more episodes coming up. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment. Let us know what we should be talking about because we will talk about it, man. Thanks again. Talk soon.